Good afternoon. Welcome back to Passionate World Talk Radio Network, a wholly owned subsidiary of Global Media Network LLC. Educate, enlighten, entertain, and let's not forget mindfulness. On today's special report with Lillian C., we're going to introduce the audience to this article from USA Today and then hear a commentary from me. The article, which was written by Samantha Neely, is Will Florida Teens Be Replacement Workers for Departed Immigrants? What to Know About the Child Labor Bill. You remember the Child Labor Bill? 19th century, factories, children as young as 3 and 4 being maimed, killed, working 10, 15 hours for pennies on the dollar. You should know that in the great state of Florida, the lawmakers there are considering a bill that would remove work restrictions for 16 and 17-year-olds and loosen restriction for younger teens. And that the bill argues that it would help address workforce shortages and give parents more control over their children's employment. Opponents of the bill disagree, including some lawmakers and advocacy groups, that it could lead to the exploitation of minors and negatively impact their education and well-being. You often wondered why our school year is the way that it is. Opinion and comment. It was set up around the agricultural farmer ranch ethics, where the children had to do their chores before they went to school. They did their chores when they came home from school. And the reason why they were out of school for 3 months was to help bring the harvest in. Children were considered property. In fact, one of the infamous stories relating to Abraham Lincoln was when he was 18, his father rented him to a fellow farmer who worked in the fields alongside this gentleman. And any pay he received, he gave it immediately to his father, who was the head of the household. And if he got anything from it, he was lucky because he was property. He was not a child. A year after Florida lawmakers loosened the state's child labor laws, another measure seeks to further roll back work restriction for kids as young as 14. The controversial Senate bill has already advanced through one committee, stating it will remove all work limits on 16 and 17-year-olds, as well as other provisions for those younger. Some lawmakers believe this might alleviate the recent vacancies in the state's workforce. U.S. Today says Governor Ron DeSantis acknowledged that efforts by the state and the White House to remove undocumented immigrants may have reduced the workforce for lower wage jobs. And according to Newsweek, the U.S. Immigration and Customs Enforcement said that just over 28,000 deportations were carried on in the first 7 weeks of the present administration. However, the governor said young workers could be potential replacements. Hey, I got even a better idea, another opinion. Why don't we put all the people who are retired to work as well? It's not like they're doing anything. They're just lazing around and collecting their benefits. And this is just one step away from the slave camps that the fascists used to use to get all their work done, and they didn't have to pay these people. They just worked them to death. Isn't that a great idea? Yes, we had people that left because of those rules, but you've also been able to hire other people. And what's wrong with expecting our young people to be working part-time and not get educated? I mean, during the Middle Ages, the serfs weren't educated. They couldn't read. That's why the Catholic Church relied on imagery and pictures and deliberately had kings and other rulers forbid the serfs to learn how to read because reading and knowledge gave them power. Oh my. I mean, that's how it used to be when I was growing up. Yeah, I worked too, but I wasn't exposed to dangerous machinery, dangerous chemicals, and I certainly didn't fall off the roof of my garage. I jumped off. I enjoyed doing that. Here's what to know about the bill on Florida's current child labor laws. SB 918 and HB 1225. What is the proposed child labor bill in Florida? Good that you asked. Senate Bill 918 and House Bill 1225, both titled the Employment of Minors Bill, seek to remove specific restrictions on 16 and 17 years old. Opinion, hey, we should make this mandatory across the board. Any kid between 16 and 18 has to work 2 years for America. And that includes all the billionaires, the congressmen and the Senate, because everybody's equal, right? It would allow them to work more than 8 hours a day. No time to go to the bathroom, have food breaks, certainly no time to study and go to college or learn anything. Why should they? They're labor, and you don't have to pay them their value yet. Think about it. On school nights and over 30 hours a week while school is in session without a mandated break. Wow. It would also allow exception to restrictions on work performed by minors 14 and 15 years of age under certain conditions. Just graduated from high school, homeschooled, attended virtual school. Lastly, it seeks to remove prohibition on kids working on school days earlier than 6:30 a.m. or later than 9 p.m. Sure, tire them out. Don't feed them anything. The next step is serfdom, and the next step is slavery. What a wonderful idea. I think the president and DeSantis is on to something. Why didn't we, as citizens, think of this? The Senate bill was sponsored by State Rep Jay Collins of Tampa, who dismissed critics who bash his bill for child labor exploitation. Of course, it's exploitation. That's why they want to do it. Bullies always pick on the weak. Ultimately, we're not talking about The Jungle by Upton Sinclair. No, we're talking about them working at Publix, at Piggly Wiggly, or jobs within the industry. How does that relate to sending these kids out and picking tobacco or vegetables or fruit or putting them into businesses, industries where there are no regulations so that they can die? Yeah, right. Collins said during the Senate Commerce and Tourism Committee on Tuesday, this is a parental rights thing. Parents know their kids best. Not if they're abusers, not if they're selling them to the sex trade, not if they consider them property. Can we do that with your kids, with your grandkids, your adopted children? Can we do that, sir? If passed, what would the child labor bill go into effect? The bill will go into effect on July 1st, 2025. Why don't you do it on July 4th when we celebrate all our rights and privileges for being citizens of the United States? I bet George Washington, Thomas Jefferson, John Adams, and Benjamin Franklin would stand up and applaud you. Collins' proposal cleared the Commerce and Tourism Committee on a 5-4 vote this week. Now moving on to the Regulated Industries Committee. Hey, I got a great idea. Why don't we take everybody who's visiting Florida and draft them into working if they're between the ages of 3 and 18. That way they have to work for their vacation, only they won't have one. I think that's awesome, don't you? strip away basic safeguards. What are critics saying about the proposed child labor bill? Senator Charles Garmero Smith of Orlando and Senator Tracy Davis of Jacksonville both spoke out against the bill during the meeting, according to CBS News. Mr. Smith said the bill could allow employers to force young people to work long hours or risk being fired. Excuse me. This bill is going to lead to exploitation of minors and of children, Smith said. Davis also brought up potential problems if the bill becomes law, such as sleep deprivation, academic decline, or increased pressure on students who are working to help their families financially. Other organizations and advocacy groups have come out against the bill as well. We warn this is just the beginning, that this is indeed a slippery slope. And here we are again, said Mr. Oberlink, with Florida for All, a justice advocacy organization. We're facing another attempt to strip away basic safeguards for Florida's children, all to appease corporate interests looking for cheap labor. Florida statutes state a minor must be 14 years old and older to work, with some exceptions. Kids who work in their parents' business in a non-hazardous occupation, newspaper delivery, pages in the Florida legislature, and minors approved to work in the entertainment industry. DeSantis signed a bill into law last year allowing 16 and 17-year-olds to work more than 30 hours a week if they obtain parental permission. Homeschoolers and virtual school students, however, do not need parental permission. The law also prohibited 16 and 17-year-olds from working more than 8 hours if they have school the next day, unless it's a Sunday or a holiday. The law requires a 30-minute break every 4 hours if the minor has a shift longer than 8 hours. According to the U.S. Department of Labor, WHD database, Florida has had 819 child labor violations since 1985. Last year saw 8 violations in the state, mostly from fast food joints and restaurants. The U.S. DOL says the federal child labor provision of the Fair Labor Standards Act of 1938 were enacted to, quote, ensure that when young people work, the work is safe and does not jeopardize their health, well-being, or educational opportunities. Well, see, isn't that wonderful? The U.S. government plus Mr. DeSantis has already thought of a future where you can apprentice your child to learn how to work themselves to death at minimum wage or lower, because they're replacing the immigrants that our great country deported to the maximum prison cells where overpopulation and death is a daily threat. Ain't America grand? And now for a commentary by Lillian Caldwell. Imagine a nation that prides itself on progress and opportunity, yet quietly turns back the clock to a time when children toiled in fields and factories, their futures sacrificed for profit. Today, a troubling resurgence of child labor emerges, not as a relic of the past, but as a calculated response to workforce shortages created by political decisions. As immigrant workers are deported in mass, industries like agriculture and construction turn to the most vulnerable, children, to fill the gaps. These aren't isolated incidents, but symptoms of a broader systemic shift threatening to undo decades of hard-won labor protections. The question is, how did we get here, and what does it say about the values we claim to uphold as a society? Modern policy failures and historical context. 2 years ago, Governor DeSantis loosened child labor laws, removing protections that once shielded those under 18 from hazardous work environments. This controversial decision made it easier for companies to employ children as young as 14 or 15, citing the notion that work builds character. However, history tells a darker story. In the early 1900s, during the Industrial Revolution, children as young as 3 or 4 were sent into factories to clean intricate machinery, tasks that often led to horrific injuries or death. Fast forward to today, the 21st century, and we see echoes of this grim past. In recent cases, 2 teenage boys lost their lives, one from exposure to dangerous chemicals, the other from a construction site fall, all 162 feet of it. These tragedies remind us why such protections exist and expose the risks of dismantling them. Economic shortcuts and moral costs. When immigrant workers are deported or imprisoned without due process, the labor void left behind is immense. Instead of addressing these gaps with comprehensive policies, leaders like DeSantis argue that child labor is the solution, a stark return to exploiting the most vulnerable and the most vulnerable. While he cites his own youthful work experience as justification, his narrative ignores the harsh realities of modern labor and the dangers children now face in hazardous industry. This mindset reflects a broader pattern seen throughout history where marginalized groups, whether children, immigrants, or prisoners, are treated as disposable labor. In the early 20th century, chain gangs symbolized this exploitation, with imprisoned men forced into grueling work and grueling, brutal conditions. Today, the rollback of child labor protections feels like a step closer to those dark times. Global impact, call to action. The ripple effects extend beyond our borders as the U.S. withdraws support for programs that combat child labor and trafficking abroad. Other nations lose crucial resources to protect their children. By prioritizing budget cuts over human dignity, we send a message that exploitation is acceptable, undermining America's position as a global advocate for human rights. It's time to ask ourselves, what does it say about our nation's soul when children are sacrificed for profit and convenience? We must challenge these policies, hold our leaders accountable, and protect the vulnerable because no child should pay the price for political expedience. This is based on the numerous articles that I found while researching special reports and for writing my commentary. Thank you very much for joining us this afternoon. You can either see this video or listen to the audio over at our website, https:// passionateworldtalkradio.com, either / blog or https:// passionateworldtalkradio.com / special reports. And also our Facebook page, Special Reports with Lillian C. Check them all out. If you would like a transcript of today's program, please let us know at pwrnetworkllc@gmail.com. This program is sponsored in part by Conscious Research Solutions. Check us out at passionateworldtalkradio.com / research made simple blog. Read our blog. Send us a form with your name, email, and the topic you want to be discussed. or you want somebody to help you with your research, because research isn't as easy as letting your fingers do the walking anymore. And by AIwithlillian.com, artificial intelligence is here to stay. Netherlands is going to provide homemaker assistance to every household in their country by the end of 2025. And the Chinese already have an army of robotic dogs to attack us. So take a look at the demos, take a look at the testimonials, and sign up for a monthly subscription. AIwithlillian.com. Thank you very much. And to view the video, go over to the website, scroll down to where it says State of Current Affairs, click on it. It will take you to a page. Click on the Google link, and it'll take you into the belly of the beast, youtube.com. Have a great day.